What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Yanks the Cop. We have a jam-packed schedule tonight, but before we get going, as always, I'm joined by LFC Wahomie. What's going on, Wahomie? How you doing today?
I'm fine, good.
And we have some great news. We have an official new member of Yanks the Cop. We have Sophie finally joined the team officially. How you doing?
Officially? I'm great. I'm buzzing me. I can finally be on here officially to bully Wahomie. It's great.
You might have to work on your user tag though below. We might need a little Yanks the Cop after. Okay, all right, that works. All right, well, yeah, just going into this weekend, obviously we had a huge result. We had Everton tie Spurs 2-2. I thought Everton were going to win it, to be honest, but fortunately Harry Kane came through in like the final 10 minutes. But how are you guys feeling going into the Leeds match? Just to start, we can touch on this topic a little bit. Well, homie, let's start with you.
A bit nervous actually because Leeds are quite a good team, and obviously I think if results go this weekend for us, like West Ham draw Newcastle tomorrow, and we beat Leeds, we're going to be in a very good position. So it's going to be an intense match, and it's obviously one of those games we're going to have to really grind in a win, especially after the Madrid defeat. But I believe we can go there and win as good as Leeds are. But we just have to be really collective in terms of defending and attacking as a team, and actually believing that we can go there and get a victory. Because obviously we know how Bell's is going to set up. It's going to be a high intensity, pressurized football.
Yes.
But I did hear that Rafinha could be injured for the game. So if that's the case, that's quite good for us.
Yeah, I think that's huge, and I think that what you touched on right there, just saying that it's going to be a high intensity match. Yeah, Chris Welch, about time only had a haircut. Yeah, 100%, man. He was due. He was definitely due. But I think organization is just going to be absolutely key in this one. We're going to need the midfield to be organized. You need Fabinho in there. Dare I say Milner gets another start, and Thiago. Something like that needs to happen. Just so we have like the most experienced guys in there, because there's going to be a lot of running in this one. Maybe even sit Thiago and keep Genie in because there's going to be so much running. I'm not sure we can get to that in a little bit, but Sophie, what do you think about this one going into it?
I was on Doug's podcast the other day, and we were talking about the Leeds lineup and everything like that, and we mentioned the fact that their captain and centre back has been red carded. He's missing this game anyway. Their other centre back is out injured, and then obviously they've lost Rafinha. So we were talking about how that kind of like levels the playing field a little bit between the two teams. We're both kind of struggling in the same areas. We both play the same type of football, like heavy metal football. But for me, our biggest thing going into this is definitely going to be whether we can be clinical in that final third. This whole season, our problems have issued around the defence and the midfield, and I've spoken in depth before about the domino effect. But I don't think it's really the domino effect anymore because the defence has kind of fixed itself now. The midfield is working really well. We're making the chances. Our front three aren't finishing them. They aren't putting them away. And we saw in the Madrid game how well we played, how brilliant the passing was. We had so many chances. We had 2 assists in the first half, and Mo and Genie failed to put them away. We saw at the game we played, Premier League game before. I can't remember who we were playing actually. Who did we play? Villa. Mane at the end nearly had assisted as well, and he missed it. They're just not clinical, and I think if we want to beat Leeds, the last game we had was a 4-3 thriller. I don't think it's going to be that type of goal score line again, but I feel like if we don't go in and sort our finishing out, we don't stand a chance.
Yeah, I think the good thing about the Leeds game though is that we're going to have a lot of chances. Just the way that they play, they're like heavy metal football from when we used to play with Jurgen back in the day. There's going to be opportunities. They're not the strongest in defense. So if there was a time to kickstart our confidence, I think now is the time against Leeds. And I think we're going to get a lot of chances there. But just going back to the Madrid game really quick, and I guess it kind of coincides with this game here too. Do you think that the defense will come away with a lot of confidence after that second leg? I mean, they played pretty well, kept Real Madrid off the score sheet. They didn't have that many chances. I thought they did a good job on Benzema overall with Kabak and Phillips in the middle. Trent did a fantastic job on Vinicius Jr. And Asensio was basically non-existent the whole game. So, Sophie, let's keep it with you. What do you think about that?
I've got mixed feelings on that because overall, yeah, we did play much better. You know, we saw in the way we moved the ball around, like Klopp went all at it, like because he had nothing to lose. However, equally, Madrid didn't really try. You know, the first leg we saw them push on every counter attack they could possibly make in order to get those goals, and they banged 3 in with ease. Yes, we didn't play the first leg the way we played the second leg, which undeniably would have made it more difficult for Madrid, and they probably wouldn't have got 3. But they didn't really try. They knew that all they had to do was hold out, really. And every time, you know, you looked at the pitch, Benzema was the only really Madrid player that was past the centre line. Most of the time they were in their line, two banks. So I think our boys did a really good job, and our defence are obviously going to come away feeling really strongly about it because the performance as a whole was very solid. But they weren't tested. That's the thing. They weren't really tested by Madrid in that game, unfortunately. They were tested the first leg, and it showed. But I think anything's going to come off of the confidence. And we talked about previously, we've talked about like Leeds' form recently in the Premier League, on the back of 3 wins, and we talked about Liverpool's win. And our record the last few games isn't too bad. I feel like as Liverpool fans, we're kind of looking at Liverpool's season as a negative in the whole at the minute, and not really taking into account the last 5 games or so. We've actually come away with really good, results. We've come away with, the most points we can. Apart from the Madrid game, we won them. They've been scrappy, but we won them. So I think the boys are going to have to just keep that confidence up and try and brush off the Madrid game now. It's been, it's gone, it's happened.
Yeah.
And just kind of think, not trying to compare the Madrid game to anything else. It's a different competition. It's a different, kettle of fish entirely. And just go at Leeds with fresh eyes, I think, is the best way to do it.
Yeah, I just want to add, I think that I agree with you for the most part. I just think that Firmino did a really good job, and the midfield in general did a really good job on Toni Kroos. I don't remember too many times where Toni Kroos's name was mentioned in that first half. He didn't have much time in the ball. He was constantly pressured. I think Milner bodied him a couple of times with his physicality. So, stuff like that was stuff that was missing in the first leg, 100%. He was given too much time on the ball. But homie, what do you think about everything that Sophie and I just said? Do you agree with that, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I do think it is true that I don't think Madrid played as if they did in the first leg, because they although I think they knew that obviously one of our big issues obviously is the low block. So that's obviously they set up for the low block, and they obviously set up just to potentially counter-attack. But I don't think they went in that game, the second leg, thinking that they need to attack us or go all out and attack. So I don't think overall that, as good as our defense did play, I don't think they were properly tested. I don't think Madrid went in that game thinking, okay, look, we need to be open as they were in the first leg. So I think with Leeds' game, they're going to be open and they're going to come at us. So our defense is going to be more tested than they were in Madrid's second leg. But I do feel that, we can take positives. I mean, we should have had 3 goals in that game. So we can get positives in the fact that, if we create the same kind of chances against Leeds, surely this time around we'll at least take one of them.
But are we going to? That's the issue that we're having at the minute. Like, we can sit here and say, oh, it's Leeds, it's not Madrid. Obviously, it's very different kettle of fish, different caliber of players. We will, I completely agree with Chris. We will get chances against them. Oh, he's back! We will get chances against Leeds, undeniably, but are we going to be able to take those chances effectively? We've seen it in the past few games. How many times have we all sat there and watched the screen, watched an open goal, and been like, it's going in, and then Salah, shoots it with the outside of his foot, not the inside of his foot, makes a silly mistake, it goes left, Jota takes it over the bar. Just silly, silly mistakes that, 6 months ago you would never have thought our front three would have been making. So for me, my biggest concern is, are they actually going to be able to finish? Because at the minute, they're not doing the right job. And it's sad to say, but they're not.
I'd probably play all 4 of the forwards on Monday.
You'd play all 4 of the forwards?
Yeah.
Steve, what do you think? You're coming in a little late here, but we're just kind of talking about the Madrid game. I said that, Sophie and I said that the defense had played pretty well, obviously keeping a clean sheet, but the forwards were lacking in quality. And we also mentioned that in this Leeds game, there's going to be plenty of opportunities. But what are your insights?
Yeah, I mean, you guys kind of nailed on the head. I think, if Salah scores that goal in the first 2 minutes, that probably would have changed the whole dynamic of that match. I think Real Madrid would have been on the back foot, but I mean, I counted at least 4 chances that Liverpool could have scored in that game. And you even think back to the Villa performance as well. I know Martinez made some great saves in that match, but again, a lot of opportunities that we had, didn't get a lot of goals. And I think it's now over 100 shots that we have at Anfield in 2021 and only have 3 goals in live play. It's definitely concerning. And I caught Sophie at the end there, and she's absolutely right. Like, just way too many times when, like, 2 years ago when we'd be in the same exact position and, like, you just know the ball's going to go in the back of the net, and now it's just, like, there's no confidence in that right now. It's kind of crazy. But, yeah, I think against Leeds, it's gonna be really similar to the first game of the season when we played against them. I think it's going to be a whole lot of going back and forth. I do think I don't think our defense will allow 3 goals against them again. I think Leeds is going to be without somebody pretty big on their team. I forget who it is, but yeah. So honestly, no, I think it's going to be an open game. I think it's going to be a lot of back and forth, and we're definitely going to have our fair share of chances. So honestly, though, like, I know we didn't get the job done. We came out with a draw against Real Madrid, but that was the best we've played in a long time. And I think if we play like that the rest of the game, for all the rest of the matches, I think we're going to be in good position and definitely battle for the top 4. So that was the biggest thing for me. I know we're not there finishing-wise, but that was a really, really good performance we put in that 0-0 draw.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And Stephen Somerville, thank you so much for joining us, man. First time on here. Keep up the great content. We'll definitely keep bringing it, man. Much appreciated. Chris Welch, smash that like button for amount of chances Liverpool will get leads. Hopefully it's like 50, man. I'm hoping it's 50. Mustafa coming in here. What's that?
Might get one of them in then. 50 chances and 1 goal.
Yeah, Mustafa's coming in saying, I'm praying that we get that Champions League spot. Yeah, I think it's up for the taking. We'll see what happens this weekend with West Ham and Newcastle and Chelsea as well. But what did you guys think? There was a lot of fallout after this game, a lot of criticism for the players, but especially with Gini Wijnaldum. Obviously, he's been quite the contentious topic over the past season. A lot of fans want him out. He's going to be likely leaving anyway, and he's been subject to a lot of criticism throughout each game. But after this one, there was a lot of terrible things being said about him, racist comments included. Obviously, we don't condone that kind of stuff here on Yanks the Cop, but what is going on with Twitter, guys? I mean, what are your opinions on all of this? Like, we can just touch on it briefly, but what needs to change? You're seeing Jordan Henderson come out, and he's allowing a social media company to kind of take over all of his social media accounts and try to spread I don't know the word I'm looking for, but like positive vibes regarding, racist abuse and stuff like that. So what are your thoughts on all this, you guys?
Yeah. I'll kind of take this first, if that's cool with you guys. Before I jump into that too, I'm sorry I was late, but I really wanted to say, obviously everyone here, especially Sophie, who lives right in town, all of our thoughts, prayers are with everybody who is impacted by the Hillsborough tragedy 32 years ago. Obviously, we all know what happened. I actually watched a video of the live shot of all that happening. It's so cringeworthy, and I was really happy to see so many rival fans come out in support of us too. The 99% of you who said positive vibes, we really appreciate that. The 1% may be louder at times, but we know that doesn't reflect your fan base, and we all appreciate you guys there. But when it comes to the Gini Wijnaldum stuff, absolutely disgusting. Klopp's come out and said, especially if you're a Liverpool supporter and you're doing that stuff, you're not a Liverpool supporter. You're not a true one. Honestly, I think the only way it's ever going to stop is if the social media companies themselves are held responsible, because right now they're not. So they don't really care. It's driving more traffic on their platforms. And until they get held with a financially responsible, legally responsible, anything like that, nothing's going to change. That's the thing that really needs to happen. And it's a shame that these companies are making millions and millions of dollars and can't even, go out of their way to ban people permanently. Like, you can easily track IP addresses. You can know who is associated no matter how many accounts they make. And you always see it too. It's always coming from those people who are hiding behind a Twitter avatar that's not even their real picture. It's always those same people.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, in my opinion, until the social media companies do take responsibility themselves, nothing's ever going to change.
My thing is, just real quick before you guys jump in, is that in terms of social media, I think, there clearly needs to be change there, and hopefully there will be. I'm not going to I'm not going to rely on them too heavily, though. What I think that needs to happen is once fans return, you've seen these things with fans in the stadiums too. If it happens in the stadium like that, whether it's, in the Italian league, it happens all the time. Like, I think last year was Napoli and several other teams as well. But if it does happen, that team should be docked points. Just stuff like that just needs to really impact, just for them to understand that there's actually consequences when you say things like that. It's just absolutely ridiculous that there aren't any. And just going to the chat real quick before I get to you guys, J-Doc said it's easy to say shit behind the scenes. Completely agree. Chris Welch, constructive criticism is fine for any player, but race abuse and online abuse oversteps the mark. You're a disgusting human being if you do that. What do you guys think? Well, homie, let's go to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's disgusting. Like, Tyron Mings also just posted today, like, he shared on Instagram, like, the daily abuse he gets. I think I echo what Stephen's saying, the fact that, social media accounts need to be held accountable. But I think it also comes from, like, the government. Like, the government doesn't really care to really stop it. And that's where it's systemic issue comes from, this whole racism thing. Because until the government starts, making it as a priority to eradicate from society, and then holding big corporations accountable, then nothing's going to really change. Yeah. So until, and also, I think it's probably with social media, maybe they need to, like, I don't know the way, maybe have verifications of people who have Twitter accounts. I don't know how possible that is, but, should be verification, because the problem is it's not this easy as so it's very hard to stop these anonymous accounts, and that's the issue. Because all they do is they'll just create another one. If when you report one, they just create another one. So that's the issue. And it's most of the times as well, you find it's like some little kid is like 14, 15 that's doing it. And they think apparently the one that abused Tyron Mings got exposed. I saw on Instagram, and they found out it's some 14-year-old kid. So it's like, as Steve said, they're always hiding behind, and Avi's never there in photo. So I don't know how to really stop it, but it's disgusting the fact that that every time when a footballer has a bad game, regardless of whatever color, gender, religion, whatever it is, something like that has to get brought into. Why can't you just focus on their performance and their ability on the pitch? What the gender, the race has nothing to do with it. So, but I think, like I said, until something's done like overall society, I don't think you're going to real change it. And the FA and on the UEFA and FIFA, their punishments are a joke. Like, if you're a fan, you're racist at a stadium, you get a lifetime ban. If you're a player, you get 10-match ban. It's a joke. So, until overall something's done, I don't think anything's going to change, unfortunately.
Yeah, the fact that Kamara from Rangers what did he get suspended for 3 games? That's just ridiculous. The fact that they allowed that is absolutely ridiculous in my opinion. But Sophie, let's go to you. What do you think?
I think everything that you have said is pretty much covered, the repercussions in regards to social media and the government response. So I'm not going to rehash the same things, the same points that have been made, but just taking it back to Genie himself, because this is the issue that, we are facing as, Liverpool fans at the minute. Klopp came out, like you said before, Stephen, and said that, if you're a Liverpool fan, and you say these things, then you're not a Liverpool fan. And as somebody from the city, I know it was nearly a decade ago, but in 2012, we were the capital of culture. Our city is so inclusive of everybody, race, religion, gender. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. Like, your skin color, just because you've got extra melanin in your skin, means you're a lesser being. No. But for you to use a footballer's ability on the pitch as validation for you to then say racist remarks is disgusting. Because if any one of us in our professional career, say I was working with Wahomey, just to use Wahomey, if I was working with Wahomey and I turned around after a bad day at work and said that, say me and Wahomey did a paired presentation, and I came out with those remarks at the end of it, I'd be sacked straight away. There'd be no, long, dragging it out. There'd be no long spiel and, we're sorry about this and it won't happen again, a slap on the wrist. I'd be sacked and I'd be blacklisted.
And rightfully
that would be on my record. And it doesn't seem to have those ramifications in football. And they think that they can sit there and say that to Gini Wijnaldum. And I understand that Gini's come under a lot of scrutiny recently. As a player himself, take his colour of skin out of it. I understand that Gini's been on the wrong end of the stick in regards to a lot of abuse because of his contract situation going on. But 18 months ago, you were all outside in Madrid singing his song. His skin didn't come into it then.
True.
None of that came into it. And if you look at the Liverpool team, we've got about 5 players who are white. The rest of our team are Brazilian, are mixed race, are black, are Egyptian. And you think it's perfectly acceptable. That's your team that you support. And you think using those emojis warrants what you're actually saying and hides the meaning behind it. No. It's racism, and you don't accept it in any other sport of the world. So why is football and the football world accepting it? And they go, well, footballers just kind of have to put up with it. Well, no, they shouldn't, because they go to work. It just so happens that they're celebrities in a sense. But if you went to a Kanye West concert and racially abused him at his concert, you'd be escorted out within seconds. And you would not be allowed back in, and you would probably be given criminal charges for it.
You would leave in an ambulance.
Yeah, Kanye West would probably knock it out, But these fans, or so-called fans, if you can even call them that, just seem to think that they're an anonymous person, and it's not the case.
Yeah.
Everything comes out in the wash. Everything comes to light at the end of the day. But what these people, and I understand that they are, the majority of them are 16 or younger. They're very young. They're very immature people who don't really understand the consequences of their actions and what they say online. But everything they say online leaves a digital footprint. Whether your IP address is tracked at the time of the event or not, you can't say for certain that one day your employer, 10 years from now, with new advances in technology, won't be able to find your Twitter account and see what you've said. Won't be able to figure out that it's you behind that screen saying those things. We see it all the time on Twitter now with these accounts coming out and saying, horrible shouts against Hillsborough and horrible shouts against the Munich disaster and racist remarks and everything. And there are accounts out there who will find that person's information so easy and say, well, I know your full name. I know where you live. And if an individual, just a normal person in the public can find that, then the authorities have every right to do the same, and they're not doing it. So it shows that they just don't want to do it, because if they wanted to change it, they'd change it. But it doesn't belong in football. It doesn't belong in anywhere.
Yeah, I think that's beautifully said, Sophie. I think you said that absolutely perfectly. I want to get to the chat real quick. J-Doc said that social media is extremely hard to censor. IPs are easy to change. Alt accounts, I can't blame them. Yeah, I mean, I think they are somewhat to blame, though. I think that, like Wahomey said, there needs to be some sort of authentication or something along those lines, something that needs to change and make these keyboard warriors actually have a face on these social media networks. Eve, thanks for coming back again, Eve. Pleasure to have you. She said that until there are legitimate repercussions for abuse online, it'll sadly continue. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Chris Welch said, I constructively criticize our players if they have a bad performance, but I don't overstep the mark by abusing. I still bloody love and support them because they play for the club. Yeah, of course, and that's the way it should be. 1892, welcome back, guys. Thanks for joining us. Wahomey with a fresh trim. You know it. Stevie has a fresh trim as well.
I'm just waiting for Wahomey to start doing this. He's had so many compliments on his hair.
Yeah. John Moore came in and said that don't care what age they are. I have 2 young children. They would never dream of saying anything like that. Yeah, and you raised them right then, man. Well done. The Dugout Football Channel. This channel deserves more subs. Yeah, we definitely do, man. Thanks very much for the support. And Dave's LFC chats. What's going on, Dave? Thanks for joining us. And yes, congrats to Sophie. We're so happy to have her on our team. But let's get back to football now. I do want to just mention really quickly, or ask this question really quickly. We've been talking on Yanks of the Cop how there's been somewhat of a slow buildup with the lack of Virgil van Dijk, with the lack of Joe Gomez, Joel Matip, and that transition from getting the ball from the defense up to the forwards takes a pretty long time. And that's, I think, one of our main issues with a low block whenever we come against it. But what are your guys' thoughts on this? I mean, obviously, I think that's what Thiago was brought in for, and we haven't seen him much recently. Do you think that we need to utilize him more? Do you think he needs more time? Are you concerned with the buildup? Just what are some of your responses here? Let's start with Wahomie.
Yeah, I think overall, the one thing we're missing, a lot of times when we're playing like a low block, is someone to switch the play. And that's what we were so good at. Obviously when we had Virgil, Gomez, or Matip, they could switch the play. They could put the ball out wide to the flanks, or they could play the ball faster, get the ball further into, bring the ball forward and get the ball into midfield.
Yes.
And I guess in the attack more. But now, obviously, our build-up play, obviously, there's limitations with obviously what Kabak and Phillips can do. Obviously, they've done as well as they can do. But obviously, the limitations of the fact that obviously they can't do the switch of play, or maybe they don't have confidence enough in themselves to do it. So they play more safe passes. But also, I think midfield, I don't think the midfield's taking much risks in terms of the passes they're making, so we're not seeing sometimes quick football, and it's very slow build up, so obviously it makes it easier for the opposition to defend against you, because if you're not moving the ball fast enough, which we were very good at previously doing, where we tire out the opposition because we're just passing it really quickly, it makes it easier for them and comfortable for them to defend. So I do feel it is a concern, but I don't think it's something that we're going to be able to solve now until the summer, until next season. But I do think it is a concern. I do think it is why we have struggled in certain games when we played the bottom teams, because we don't move the ball quickly enough. We move it very slow in midfield and in defence, and it makes it more harder for us to create chances and score goals. So I do think it is a concern, but it's nothing we can really solve now. Because even if you put Thiago in there, it's going to be difficult, because I think even with him, the team's not playing that well overall, and obviously even him, like when he came against Madrid, he was shocking in that second half. And I think also didn't help the fact that Fabinho went back into defence, so that also affected him. And then I think obviously when Milner went off, he was the only one that's been physical, getting Madrid's face, so we lost that intensity. So I do feel that that doesn't help, because obviously when Fabinho's not midfield, Thiago has to take on more defensive stuff and has to do more. So I do think that affected him, but at the same time, he should have still done more. But I do feel that overall, we're not taking enough risks overall as a team, realistically. And until we have, I remember I think it was Arteta who said that Liverpool was so difficult to defend against when we had Van Dijk and Gomez, because they could do that switch ball over the top that just completely bypass the press. And we don't have that right now, and that affects the team.
Yeah.
What do you think, Sophie?
I completely agree with Wahomie, but for me, Thiago, when we signed Thiago, we signed him with a fully fit team. We signed him with a jigsaw puzzle piece that fit perfectly in the team that we had. And obviously, we've been absolutely decimated by, injuries this season. And I know people say you can't keep blaming injuries, but there was that Man City Extra, whatever channel they are. They put out a tweet earlier today saying that, Liverpool are 22 points behind City so far this season. And at some point, you can't blame injuries. It's not a valid excuse. And I thought, well, hang on a minute. When you were 25 points behind us last season with Laporte injured for 107 days, that was your valid reason. Our centre-backs alone have missed 607 consecutive days combined. They've missed 3 seasons worth of football between the 3 of them due to possibly career-ending injuries in the case of Virgil van Dijk. Obviously he is going to come back, but, they are season-ending injuries. So we have not been fortunate at all, and it's not an excuse. It's a viable reason why we've struggled so much, you know. But with Thiago, he was brought in, like I said, as that perfect little jigsaw piece to fill the missing piece in, and he hasn't been able to do that. And we say that Thiago was brought in to be our creative player, and switch the play, but he's not able to do that at the minute, because if he does that role, he exposes so many other elements that aren't there because we don't have Virgil and we don't have Gomez in there. We are not going to see the Thiago we signed from Bayern until those boys are back next season. And we can sit here and we can say, what can our boys do now for the next 6 games? But at the end of the day, we've got 6 games of a very shit season left. Now, for me personally, I'm just sitting here going, right, get your heads down, grind out the results you can, and just call this season what it is. Get top 4 and go again next year when everyone's back, because I am done with this season. I am done with the criticism, and I am done with the abuse, and I am done with the negativity, not just for Liverpool, for every team. It's been a horrible season. We put a lot of pressure on this season as football fans because of Project Restart. When football was suspended, we were all gutted. When football came back, we were so excited. We put so much emphasis on our need for football that we've kind of put too much expectations on the players across the league, not just Liverpool. And I think all the players are feeling that pressure because it's the normal pressure of the Premier League, and then that added extra pressure. And I think Thiago has felt it tremendously because, like I said, he was signed with very, very high expectations from Liverpool fans. We expected so much of him, and then he got injured in the derby. Then he's come back from injury and he's not been what we expected. But what can you expect when everything around you has got upside down jigsaw pieces that don't fit right now? You can't do it until you solve the problem, and the problem can't be solved until you've got a fully fit squad ready to go again next season. You can't do it. And I think Thiago's getting a lot of hate, and a lot of our players are getting hate. And Wahome rightly said then that when Milner came off, my light's just gone off. Sorry. It's on the timer. It was like, shut up, Sophie, bad enough for you now. Fucking hell.
That's great. First show.
Nice. But like Wahome said, rather than Ben laughing at me, Wahome rightly said then before, the team's not itself. When Milner came off, we lost that intensity. When Fabinho dropped back, we lost that intensity. In a normal season, we wouldn't do that. This is not a normal season. And for me, at this point, like I said before, it's literally just a case of put on someone please clip that and send that. Like, someone screen record that. Please just put your heads down, work together as a unit, as a team. Don't worry about being a standout player. Don't worry about Ballon d'Or. Don't worry about top goal scorer and Golden Boot. Don't worry about any personal accolades this season. Just work together as a unit. Grind out results the way we used to when Liverpool was struggling for Europa. Go back to our roots and just fight for top 4, because that's all we need for next year. Next year is a fresh start with all the boys back, and then we'll just show everybody what we're worth. But for now, just fucking do something. Just please do something. Everyone's like going off. Fucking hell.
Chris Wells.
This show is just going to be very interesting from here on out. Not just this episode, all shows going forward. Like, holy shit. It's fun.
I'm not coming back no more. I quit.
One and done. She's one and done. No, but I mean, Andrew, getting back to the original question, I mean, to be honest, like, I'm not that concerned with the slow buildup. I mean, we're, like Sophie said, I mean, we kind of have square pegs and round holes right now. I mean, we're playing guys out of position, like, and you think, 2 of the key guys to our Liverpool system were Van Dijk and Henderson. They're not in there, especially the majority of the time that Thiago has played for us, he's been playing in a role that's not exactly his perfect role, like she said. He was supposed to be more of our creator, and he's being asked to do way more than that. And because of that, he has to focus more defensively. It's not that he can't do that. He's still pretty good at that, but that's not what he excels at. So that's kind of been the problem there. And that's the biggest issue is we're missing the key guys in the midfield and in the center of the park that really help us click. And even guys like Trent and Robbo, like, taking that, like, they're playing next to guys they're not usually playing with. They don't have the usual cover with Henderson. And I think Milner offered that big time again in the Real Madrid match. Like all of a sudden, Robbo was flying up the field, getting involved way more like he used to be. And that was just something that we've been missing. So, in the long term, I'm not worried about it. Short term, sure, but honestly, I think, like Sophie said, again, if we make top four, if Liverpool makes the top four, everybody in the league should be extremely worried about us next season, because we'll have the funds, we'll have Champions League football. We'll be able to go get anybody that we want to go get, if FSG, and if we have the money to go do it, that's another conversation. But I think if we have the eyes on a couple of people to bring in, with Van Dijk coming back, with Gomez coming back, and also remember too, Thiago and Jota did not have preseason with us. They came in at the very end of the window. Same thing with Kabak, came in at the very end of the window. Phillips was not expected to play this many minutes. So we don't look like the same Liverpool team because we're not the same Liverpool team. So long term, I'm not worried about it. It's just, can we win, 6 out of the last 7 games that we have here? I think we can. And when you look at the matchups that the other teams have, I'm not too concerned about it in the long run. I think we're going to be fine.
Yeah, let's keep it on the midfield for a little bit, because I think it's going to be a massive, massive summer for the midfield. But Eve said about Thiago, by the time Thiago came back into our team, it had changed personnel-wise, and forwards form dropped. Yeah, 100% true. Mustafa had a good point here. Naby Keita would be so good in Serie A. I think he'd be good in Serie A. I think he'd be good in the French league, and I think he'd be good in the back in the Bundesliga. But I think he's still going to be given another chance in the Premier League. But we'll see. And then there was one more I wanted to take a look at. Not sure where it went, but what do you guys think? What's going to happen over the summer? I mean, who are we going to keep realistically? Not who you think we should keep. Who do you think that we will realistically keep, and who do you think that we'll likely sell? In only our midfield. And well, homie, I want to start with you.
No, boy.
I think Jimmy's definitely gone.
Oh, here we go, Mr. Negative. Let's get Upamecano into midfield.
Shush.
Don't shush me! Oh! Did he just shush me?
He did. Took your line.
We might have to have a shush. We might have to have a shush button too, instead of a hot
Can we
face.
get a shush button, please? We just hit the button.
As I was saying, I think Ginny's gone. Regardless of what people say, I think he's definitely gone. Milner depends on. It depends on Milner. Like, I think he might leave this summer. But it depends.
I would love Milner to stay and take a coaching job with us, but
So would I. But I think he might go.
Yeah, he still thinks he can play. But yeah, keep going.
I would preferably sell Ox and Keita. I'd sell them both, but I don't think Klopp's going to sell both. So I think he's going to sell one of them only. I did hear that Ox could win his way out to West Ham.
I've heard that.
And that's probably it, really. So, from midfield, I can think that's I classify Shaq as one of the forwards rather than midfield. So yeah, that's it. Then obviously, Gruitch and Wilson are gone too.
Yeah, looked like today there was a report saying that Porto wanted to keep him, and I saw another report saying that Liverpool wanted to keep him. So it's good that there's discussions being had about him for sure. But Sophie, what do you think?
Gruitch needs to go. We've never played him, really, have we? We've never utilised him. He's just, I know he's out on loan, but you're just feeding money into a contract that you're never going to honour. Let him go. He's happy where he is. No one misses him. Not one of us has ever turned around and gone, I wish I really had Gruitch back. Not one of us has ever said we wish that. It's like Lovren. No one wants him back either. In an ideal world, for me, midfield-wise, Ox would go. I think he'd be really good with Jesse Lingard. I think, in West Ham, I think he'd do really well moving there. When Ox first signed for us, he was absolutely explosive. He was so good because he came from a right-back position into a midfield where he wanted. He got his ACL, and he's scared because every time he's tried to go back again, his knee's gone. he can't keep up with that pace and that physicality of Liverpool anymore. And he's not got that fifth gear. Brilliant player, heck of a player, but just not for us. And he's not going to get the game time for it. When he does come on, he doesn't impact the game in the way he used to. So ideally, Ox should go. He's still young. Give him a career somewhere else. Naby Keita has got to go. Got to go. You can't defend him anymore. It's indefensible. Personally, he was big at fault for most of that Madrid first leg. I feel like he didn't do the role he was meant to do, and he never does the role. We've seen glimmers of it, but how many seasons are you going to give that lad before you say enough is enough and send him back? We've just spoke there about how he'd be good in Serie A, he'd be good in the Bundesliga, he'd be good there. So basically, he'd be good anywhere but the Premier League. That's what we're saying. He's got to go. Ox has got to go, and Gini's going 100%. And if Gini does go, and we do get rid of Ox and Naby, we'd have to keep Shaq. We'd have to keep him, because I think that's too much outgoings for the incomings. We're not going to replace 4 with 4, are we? You know, you need to keep him there because he's versatile. He can play midfield and he can play more of a forward role as well. Although he's not always getting the game time and he's quite often in the basement, he is that option that is there that's needed. But there's some, wasn't we talking about, was that on the podcast? We were talking about Naby Keita being interested in by Leicester. Leicester were thinking of going for him, and I think that'd be a good fit for him. Oh, there it is.
Yep.
I think it'd be a really good fit for Naby. Yeah, I just don't think Klopp's gonna let him go. I think he should, but I don't think he will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Stephen, before you go, Eve had a good comment here. She said, Grujic, Gini, and Ox are out for me. Naby gets another season due to his fee, plus his age. It's do or die for him next season, though. I think that's realistically what's going to happen. I think Klopp's going to give him another chance, and I think that FSG, they're all about their investments and getting their money back. And the fact that they spent so much for Naby, it's going to be hard for them to get rid of him right now. So I think he gets another season, and we could see someone like Shaq on his way out. That's what I would think. But Stephen, what do you think?
Yeah, I think ultimately, Eve kind of nailed it right there. I think, Naby, like he's a talented guy, but we've never seen it. He's kind of like a YouTube clip warrior, and we've just never seen it for Liverpool, unfortunately. But I do think he'll stay just because of the price tag we paid on him, unless a team like would pay the exact same amount. I think it was around 40 million pounds, something like that. If a club offered that same amount, maybe we'd move on, something like that. But no, I think Gini will go, and I think Ox will go, and Shaqiri. I mean, it seems like we've tried to move Shaqiri every single window, like the last 3 windows. But I think a guy like Milner, I think he'll stay for one more season, and I also think that it'll be beneficial to have him there. You hear guys like Curtis Jones talk about how Milner's really pushed them in training and really helped them become a better player in training. So even if it's not in a coaching role yet, I hope he does stick around, and because he's not a guy who's going to complain about not playing, and he's just a good locker room guy. And when it comes to Ox, he's been very unlucky with the injuries, but also he doesn't really fit into any sort of perfect position. He's not a winger, and he's not. He's also in the attacking mid role. He's really only good when there's a ton of space. I don't remember him really taking a guy one-on-one in a tight space and beating him. It's really when he has space to run is when he's dangerous. So I just don't think that his skill set really aligns with how we play tactically. So I think he'd be going. I think Gini would be going. Honestly, I'd like to see Keita go because he's never available, and I also would just like to see Curtis Jones get more opportunity because I think he's been good this season, and that was something I actually wanted to ask you guys, the team about is he seemed to get on a stretch of playing really good, and now we haven't seen him at all in the last month and a half, 2 months. You think there's just something going on there, or do you think he's just not in Klopp's trust circle yet for the big matches?
For me,
Go ahead, Soph.
No, you shush. For me, I think Jones isn't being played right now because he's still got a lot of time to develop. He's got all preseason, he's got next season to show his worth. If Genie goes, Jones steps right into that role for me. You know, he takes that place. But for right now, where we are with the season, where we are in the league, now is not a time to start, you know, embedding someone's new shoes into a team. Like, you know, it was okay at the start when we had, you know, like we had Hendo, we had our captain, we had Virgil, we had Gomez, we had our solid players. We don't have our solid players right now. And I think it would be very foolish to try and embed a new young lad into that team at such a critical point, because you know what will happen. We've talked before about social media and the abuse of players. If you put Jones in that midfield and he makes one fucking mistake, he is getting absolutely railroaded for it. He will not survive it. They will cripple him. You know, he is a very young lad. He hasn't felt the brunt of the abuse yet. Not the way the Premier League players do. So I think we need to just kind of keep him on the back burner until next season and then really kickstart his development again. Because originally I do think that was Klopp's plan for this season, was to really kickstart his career. But things have derailed that. And for right now, you've got to look at the bigger picture. He's got a long time to go. He's, 18, 19, 20, something like that. He's still very young, early 20s. You know, he's got plenty of time still. He's going nowhere. You know, another 6 games isn't going to kill him. It's really, really not going to kill him right now. But just before we move on, I just want to go back to what Eve said about Naby, where the club will want to play him to get the money back. I appreciate what you're thinking. I understand the thought pattern. You know, we paid 48 million for Naby Keita. We expected more from him. We are never going to get that money back. We are never going to recoup that money back. You know, he was worth 48 million. His stock has gone woofed. Regardless of whether he has a stellar season next year, we're not going to make that money back. We might get near it, but we're not going to break it back. Let's look at Virgil's profit. I was looking at the injury stats earlier between the two clubs. That's where I got 607 from. Virgil's profit was 90 million. He was valued at 90 million on the market before his injury. He's now dropped 30 million for just being injured.
Yeah.
For one injury. He's devalued 30 million. And I know it's a different quality of player, but Naby Keita was never a Virgil. Was never near that quality, and he was, you know, quite expensive. We are never going to recoup that money back. And if he goes another season with really poor form, his stock plummets even more. Now, if I'm not a football manager, I'm not in the financial part of Liverpool, but I'd be sat there going, hang on, we've got a player here who's got talent undeniably, who the Bundesliga will take back because they know what he can do in their league. I know he can't do it in the Premier League. I know I'm losing money. Every day he's with us, I'm losing more and more and more money. I'd be cashing in while I could, knowing that I've got Curtis Jones waiting in the wings, knowing that I've got development, that I've got my eye on other players. I've got Thiago who I've just brought in. I've got Bobby who could be revolutionised into a 10 role. I'm thinking strategically going, I'll get rid of him now. That's what I would personally do. But again, I don't own Liverpool Football Club, do I?
Yeah,
be great if I did.
Right? Yeah, you'd be making some big bucks right now, that's for sure. But to get to some things in the chat here, Steven Somerville, one of our new guests here. My birthday's this week. I don't want Liverpool to let me down. Losing can potentially be our top 4 race done. First of all, happy early birthday, my friend, and thanks for checking out the podcast. And the team won't let you down. They know it's your birthday. They're not going to let you down at all. But a couple other thoughts here on people going out. Our friend over at Dugout, if you guys haven't checked out his channel, he does great work there, so go check it out. Adrian gone, Reese loan, Matip sold, Genie gone, Keita unsure, Ox sold, Shaqiri sold, already sold. That'd be a lot of money that we would potentially be able to spend on some good players there. There is a lot of outbounds. I mean, I hope a guy like Origi, Shaqiri, Ox, and I don't want Genie to leave, but it sounds like he's out the door. I think those guys would be really, really good. Chris Welch here. That'd be Keita Liverpool career over as injury prone. Yeah, exactly right. This is a really good point here. The squad's getting older. Changes need to happen before it's too late. Yeah, I think that's the big thing too. Is we need to get some good, talented guys in those 25 and under to come in who can make an impact right away, because the team is getting really old. Dugout could also see Ben Davies. I forgot he existed. He is Casper the Ghost for sure.
He's
poor
not
guy.
even in the basement. He's buried underneath the basement.
Jeez.
He's buried underneath the basement that Semikis is in. That's for sure. But any other good comments here? Zane here. This is something that we've talked about all the time. We need an attacking mid, somebody who can go out and score goals. But Homer, you want to comment on this? Because I know this is one of your favorite topics.
Oh, fucking hell, here we
It is, but I just don't think we're gonna get it solved this summer. I just don't think it. But I do feel like, for me, one of the big things we're lacking from midfield is someone who can score goals. You know, because you can see straight away now, like, if the strikers are struggling, you know, so if you know the only ones who really score for us nowadays, Jota and Salah, and if both of them don't score, realistically, no one else scores. Because Manu's been in shocking form. Bobby's rarely scores. It doesn't look like he's going to score nowadays. So we need someone else to score goals. You know, and I look to, you know, I look at Man United. They've got Fernandes, City got De Bruyne, Foden, Gundogan. Bayern got Goretzka, Kimmich. So, you know, a lot of these teams have people who score goals. You know, even Madrid had Casemiro. He scored like, I think, 12 goals this season. So we need someone who can score goals from midfield. It's the one thing we're missing. But I just don't think we're going to solve that this summer. Much I'd love it. I'd love OR, but I just don't think we're going to solve it with him, because I don't think the money's going to be there for that. And I think we're going to replace Gini with a like for like rather than getting an attacking player. Well, I think we probably need two midfielders, but I just don't think we're going to get two midfielders. So I think we're going to go again next season relying on getting like for Gini, and then hoping that Thiago playing a bit further forward is going to solve that situation for the time being. And hopefully as well, you know, that they'll think Naby Keita is going to find something and click in, which I don't think Keita ever is going to do it. But I think that's what they're going to think in. So as much as I want it, and I've said it repeatedly, we need someone, I just don't think we're going to do that this summer, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's a matter of concern, the fact that we are relying on strikers for goals, and there is a lack of goals and creativity. You know, I'd love for us. I can't remember the last time we had someone who's getting like loads of goals and assists from midfield. Maybe it's Gerrard, and he was there. The last time we had that. Maybe actually no, Morelos was getting goals and assists before we sold him to Chelsea. But that's the last time we had someone he was getting the numbers from midfield.
Yeah. What do you think, Andrew?
I just don't think they're going to buy someone like OR. I think that, I mean, obviously I would love to have him, and not to add a little pessimism into the show, but I just don't think they're going to take another chance on someone like OR when we took a pretty big chance on Naby Keita for a similar fee, and it hasn't really worked out. And in terms of Keita, I think that, you know, recently in the past 3 to 6 months, they've put him on a new workout plan. They've been monitoring his progress pretty tightly. And I just find it hard to believe that Klopp's going to give up on him, that FSG is going to allow that investment to just walk out the door for, you know, a much lower fee. And, you know, especially with the fact that they're putting all this work into him right now, I think they're going to give him one more season. I really do. And I think he has a 5-year deal. So this will be his 4th season. So we could still sell him next summer, but yeah, I mean, he's an enigma. It's tough to deal with him. It's very frustrating to deal with him. So I would love to see an attacking midfielder. I think he could be that guy if he's fit, but I don't see us signing one this summer because of those reasons. And I also don't see us signing one this summer because I think we have other priorities. I think we need further rotation up front. Clearly, yeah, like someone like Daka, like Chris Welch just said, coming in, especially with Origi probably being sold, Shaqiri being sold. We just need further options up front. We need further options in the back. So I think those are the biggest priorities for me instead of an attacking midfielder.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, because I do think, obviously when we get the guys back from injury, we'll probably be back up there, back on the City level. But the season has shown us as well, we do need a couple of those guys who can strengthen our bench. And so if we have an injury or two here, we could, fill in perfectly fine. Like you look at who they have coming off the bench, like, who's the midfielder who's absolutely killing it right now? Why am I blanking on his name? Gundogan. Like, Gundogan doesn't, usually is not a starter for them. And he comes in and he's been one of the best midfielders this year. Obviously they've spent $300 million just on outside backs over the last few years. Yeah. We need to. I'm not saying we need to go out and spend that kind of money, but we do just need to have somebody who can push Trent. I think Tsimikas can still be that guy who pushes Robbo, but he's had some injuries and that sort of a thing. Need some more center back depth. Definitely need another pure striker off the bench. Origi's not the guy anymore. He's too lazy. I think we're a couple pieces away from really, really competing there. But to get back to the game this weekend, what do you guys want to see out of us? Obviously we want to score a lot of goals, get back to doing that. But what do you need to see ultimately though, against this game against Leeds and then the following weekend to make you have the belief that we can go out and get the top 4?
2 words. Jurgen Klopp said them all last season. That's all we need to be as mentality monsters. That's all we need to be. We don't need to be the most outstanding footballers. We don't need to be the most clinical finishers. We don't need to be the most solid defensive unit. We do not need to have the most, tantalising midfield in the Premier League. We do not need any of that right now. What we need to do, I said it before, is get your head down and fucking play football. That's what you need to do. You need to focus on that, and you need to have that mentality. You need to believe that we can get top 4, or we're just going to let it slip between our grasp. We can get top 4 now. So I don't want to see, I'd love the lads to come out on Monday and absolutely play, the football we've enjoyed for the last 18 months. I'd love nothing more than to see a display like that. But being realistic about it, all I want to see is get lads put on a good performance and grind out a result. I don't care if it's a 1-0 win. I don't care if it's 2-1. I don't care if it's a dodgy penalty in the 95th minute of extra. I don't care. I just want the lads to go out fighting for it and go down. And if we don't get top 4, I want to go down all guns blazing. I want to go out proper, like we did in the Madrid game. If we'd have played that second leg like we played the first leg, I'd have been fuming. But we went out with a good performance, and that's the way it's got to be for the rest of the season for me. You've got to play it like that. There's no other option.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And everyone in the chat, we love you guys' opinions. Keep bringing this in. And if you haven't yet, hit that like and subscribe button. You guys are awesome. But Andrew, what are your thoughts?
We kind of touched on it earlier. I think that this game, we know what to expect from Leeds. Leeds hasn't changed their play style all year, and it doesn't matter what team they're going against. They're going to go all-out attack, heavy metal football, pressing the hell out of you, and they're going to just run until they're dead in the ground. So I think that we need to be incredibly organized in the midfield. We need to be ready for our forwards, our center backs to be pressed constantly. I don't think they're going to have too much time on the ball. So hopefully Kabak can deal with that pressure. There's a few times in the Madrid 2 legs that he succumbed to that pressure and gave the ball away in risky scenarios, or risky situations. But I also think, and we touched on this earlier again, that we need to just play really quickly because of that press. If we can move the ball quickly, work around that press, then we'll be very successful in this game. And I haven't seen Liverpool work around a press very often this season. One of the main reasons because of that is because they usually have most of the possession and teams just kind of sit back on them. But it's going to be needed in this game. Leeds was the first game of the season this year, and we had Van Dijk in there, we had Gomez in there, and they still scored 3 goals against us. They hit us in the mouth. So we know what to expect this time around, which is a good thing, but we still have somewhat inexperienced center backs that like to play a high line. So it's going to be a dangerous game. It really is. So we need to be on our toes. We need to be ready for anything. We need to be ready for a physical battle. It's not just going to, Leeds, I think, are on 45 points, and we're on 52. So Leeds wins this one. They still have motivation to make Europe. They really do. Mm-hmm. That's how crazy of a season that we're in right now. So I just think we need to be really up for this one. I know we just lost to Madrid. We can't be feeling bad for ourselves. We need to get going and start building momentum for the top 4 if we want to make Champions League next year. Yeah, no, that's a good point. And there's 2 good points here in the chat I wanted to get to. First of all,
Zane, I saw you say that your birthday was on the Real Madrid 0-0 draw. So happy belated birthday to you, my friend, and thanks for checking us out. But at this point here, I wanted to get your opinions on this. And Wahome, I'll start with you. Mane on the bench is a priority, or Klopp's commitment to other players is questionable. Still, I can't understand the Minamino treatment. So what are your thoughts on that? Because obviously, Mane hasn't been his usual self this year as of late. So, I mean, do you kind of agree with that assessment that he needs to get benched? And, if he doesn't, you're kind of questioning Klopp's tactics a little bit?
No, I think that's absolutely bollocks, to be honest. I respect everyone's opinion. Like, you're entitled to your own opinion, but at the end of the day, it's like an arsehole. Everyone's got one. Doesn't mean you want to see it. I think that's absolute shite to say that we need to bench Mane. Like, yeah, Mane arguably hasn't been in the best form of his life, but none of the fucking team have. You can't expect everybody to be fantastic at everything all the time. You've got to give them a bit of slack. They are people. They're not robots. They're not machines. They are people. And Mane needs a rest. Definitely, he does. And that's what the end of the season will bring him, and a good preseason will bring him back to the quality we know. But I feel like a lot of people are starting to really, really slate Mane and starting to sleep on what he's actually capable of doing. When we take Mane off, bloody hell, we all moan about it. We all sit there and say we're missing that attacker on the left, and we're missing Mane, and we're missing that link up with Robbo. And to bench Mane in a chat, in a game. I was looking at the chat then. To bench Mane in a game like Leeds, where we know they will go in an all-out press. We know they're going to attack us hard. If you take Mane off, they're going to attack down that left, and they're going to really fixate on that left-hand side. I think you'd be really, really silly of Klopp to take off Mane and put Jota in. If anything, he should be putting all four of them on. He should be meeting an all-out press with an all-out attack. Put the Ferrari in fifth gear at the front of the wheel. Put the Ferrari on. Don't be putting your Volkswagen Beetle on and open for the best. It ain't going to work. It's not going to work, but some of the things I say, seriously.
Yeah. Where'd that one come from?
Yeah, that's a new one.
I have no idea. That's at my dad's. That's one of my dad's ones that I bet you. But, they do need rest. But you seen in the chat, Salah had COVID and needs a break. Mane needs a break. Bobby needs a break. Everybody needs a break. Klopp needs a break, for God's sake. Everybody does. The only team that doesn't need a break is City, because they've got 3 teams worth billions of pounds waiting in the wings. They're a different fucking breed. They're something else entirely. Everybody needs a break at this point. We're at the end of the season. Normally, everybody does regardless, but this season in particular, they do. But Mane has earned your respect. Mane has earned his place in that starting lineup. And until the day comes when Mane has an absolute catastrophic turn of events, you ain't dropping that lad unless he desperately needs it, because that's just not the way the game works, not the way our team works, and not against Leeds. That's like going up against City and putting Mane and Salah both on the bench. It's stupid. I mean, I respect your opinion and you're entitled to it, but in my opinion, it's stupid.
Well, I just want to add that the big, before Wahome goes, the big issue in the Madrid second leg for me was, I thought we had really good control of the ball in the second half. We were really starting to press, and Klopp made 2 mistakes in my opinion. He took Milner off and brought on Thiago. Yeah, Thiago probably should have come on at some point anyway, but taking Milner off just lost the intensity of the match. But the big one for me was moving Mane over to the right and Jota onto the left. And I think Sophie hit a great point there, is that Mane is so effective on that left-hand side, just cutting in. He's always keeping the defender guessing. Jota, on the other hand, I thought he should have been more so in the middle, and you saw how kind of lost he was on that left-hand side. So I thought that was a big issue, and we underestimate Mane. We take him for granted in a sense because of how great he has done for us over the past 3-4 years. He's been absolutely phenomenal. The guy won a golden boot, for God's sake. So, and that's without penalty. So he's an absolutely phenomenal player. He's gonna figure it out. Yeah, he had COVID. He had a lot of issues, but world class players don't lose that world class ability. It's gonna continue. He's gonna come back, and I have all the faith in the world.
What are your thoughts, Wahome?
I think the only thing I add, I think in an ideal world you probably would rest Mane, but I don't think you can right now, purely because we need him. Simple as that, really. And I think I didn't understand why a lot of people came for Mane after the Madrid game, the second leg, because I actually thought that he played quite well, and actually brought energy and stuff. So I didn't understand why people were scapegoating him. And then no one, obviously no one wanted to criticize Salah or criticize Jota, but a lot of people were scapegoating Mane, and I didn't stand it. But I like I said, I don't think like I would drop him for the Leeds game because I think you're going to need his energy and pressing. So, so for me, no, I wouldn't rest him for that game. I'd definitely play him. Potentially, I wouldn't mind resting for the Newcastle game after that, but not for the Leeds game. I'd definitely play Mane, and I play, like I said, I'd play all four. So, and obviously, as people have said before, Mane just needs a rest in the summer.
Yeah.
Because I think he's played like I think it's like 140 games or something without a proper rest. It's not these players aren't machines. They are going to get burnt out. So like a lot of players, Mane, Gini, Bobby, they're all playing for the red. So of course it's not going to be performing at his optimum best. But at the same time, I think it was Neil Jones, one of those guys, posted that Mane's actual stats have actually gone up this year compared to last year. So I think, yes, he has been poor overall, but I think people aren't taking context into it. So he'll come back, Mane. But yeah, just going back to the point, I wouldn't drop him for Leeds game.
I just want to mention real quick, Chris Welch said for me it's fatigue. And we talked a lot about COVID. We still don't know what the extent of COVID is on players because I'm a huge Boston Celtics fan in the NBA. There's a player, Jason Tatum. He's one of the best young players in the NBA, and he got COVID a few months ago. And now he's taking an inhaler before every game, and I think during the game as well. So we still don't know the extent of this illness. It could have massive cardiovascular issues. We don't really know. So the fact that Mane got it. And his form dropped. I mean, maybe it's a coincidence, maybe it isn't. But I think there's still a lot to learn from this. So we shouldn't take it lightly by any means.
Yeah, and just before we move on from that, like obviously Chris Welch, he's had plenty of time, and understandably, if someone has the flu, you go from October to April, you should be well recovered by now. But there are people that I work with who family have had COVID, and they've been told since recovering from it that once this pandemic is over and that it is declassified as a highly infectious disease, just to go off this topic quickly, that they have to go for a full brain scan and body scan because they do not know the effects that it has had. One of my colleagues' daughters, she's lost feeling in one of her arms because of COVID. My best friend had it last February. She still doesn't have her full sense of smell and taste back yet. You don't know how it affects people, and you can say, he should be over it by now, and he probably is over COVID itself. But the fact, as Andrew's just rightly said, the fact that he is able to go on and play these matches week in, week out, 90 minutes, 90 minutes plus, is incredible for an athlete in general. Because, like, obviously you've just mentioned, an American athlete who's struggling with it and is now, got symptoms of asthma. It affects people very differently. People's health, people's immune systems all react differently to it. So we can't say it's COVID reactions. We can't say it's not. But I think you've got to take it into account. You can't disregard it, not after the 18 months we've all had across the world. But we will see what happens next season with Mane, and we will see what happens with the boys in general. But I feel like we kind of need to just say, okay, he's had COVID. He's recovering from that still. It's been a very long season. It's been a very tiring season. And Mane hasn't had a proper break. And he plays all the internationals. He played the World Cup. He needs a break. And in summer, he will get that break. But for now, let's focus on the here and now and the next 6 games. Let's focus on that, not on speculation of, is it this, is it that, is it not?
That's a good point. I don't know, is there anything else you guys want to cover? Or should get into some fun trivia questions here?
Let's lighten the mood.
Here we are.
Lighten the mood. Who wants to start with Homie? You got one? Or
Yeah, I've got 2 for us.
Cool.
All right, so the first one, if you guys could time travel, where would you go and why?
Time travel.
I would go to AC Milan versus Liverpool. Stevie G's comeback.
That'd be pretty sweet. I was thinking like the 1960s, free love. Free love, all that stuff.
I was thinking like non-football again. Where would I go? Ooh,
Yeah, the moon landing, JFK, all that stuff was pretty cool. So, music back then was the top notch for me. So I would love to check that out. That'd be cool.
Yeah, non-football. I would love to go to the disco era, so I could have a huge afro and just.
I could see it.
Like doing this was a cool dance. That works for me.
Still a cool dance.
You could still do that now when you just grow your hair out again, just stand there in your living room.
Oh, believe me, my girlfriend sees it all the time. I give her all the moves, but those are behind closed doors.
Okay, we don't need to know.
Yeah, those are behind closed doors.
I was thinking the same as Andrew. I was like, oh, let's go like the 1940s, 1950s. But when you mentioned then like, oh, I go for like JFK in the 60s and I go for all like the moon landing, and I'm thinking to myself, I go to the 1950s because I like the way the women dressed. That's what I'm thinking. To be fair, if I could go back like really historically, I think I'd go back to like the Tudor time, like Victorian time. I'd go right back to there, and I'd like to see how everything was, because we see it romanticized in films and we see accurate historical recreations of it, but I'd like to see it fully, and I want to wear one of those big fuck off petticoat dresses. I want to be a queen.
But people were disgusting back then, like dental hygiene, personal hygiene, like all that stuff. Like they used to throw shit in the street.
Yeah.
That's true.
I'd come back home, but I'd like to go back and see it.
Yeah.
I think for me, I'd probably go back to the Egyptian time. I want to see how the pyramids were made.
Dude, I had a feeling you were going to say the Egyptian times. I don't know why. That's so weird.
Yeah. I want to know who actually made them.
I'll tell you who.
Oh, yeah.
Aliens.
That's what I was thinking. I think that. I think that. I want to see who definitely made them. I've always been curious to see who actually probably made them.
Mighty Red here. Good point. No one said going to the future.
Sorry. I had to.
Go to the past?
I love the.
Wasn't the question go to the
future would be interesting.
Yeah, actually, the future. I don't think it's good to see the future, because if you die and you see your death, it's not good.
True. And we don't know what lies ahead in the future. That's the only thing I would say. Like, it'd be cool to go. Yeah, have you ever seen the Back to the Future 2? Like that's a cool movie. I would do that.
I don't think I'd ever like to go to the future, because I feel like if I got there and, like you said, I saw something I didn't like, I'd then, when I came back to the present, do everything I could to make sure that didn't happen. It could probably make it worse.
Time.
You
telling me about screwing up time the other day. You screwed up time. You did that.
I know, but that'd be changing time in the future, not changing something in the past that's already, cemented in history. Because if I went back to the Victorian time and stabbed, Queen Victoria and suddenly became queen, things would be very, very different now. We'd have a statue in Liverpool of Queen Sophie, not Queen Victoria.
I'd do something weird. I'd go back and give them iPhones and see what they did with them. If they're the wizard or something.
Well, it's like Hot Tub Time Machine. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie before, where they go back in time and then they invent. Oh, hey, hey, come on in, Arsenal fan. Arsenal's having a tough season. All right.
Go get
one. The next one is, if you had to pick a film that you get trapped in a replay over and over again, what film would you pick and why?
Ooh.
So you go into the movie?
Yeah, you go to the movie, but it's stuck on replay. So the whole film gets replayed over and over again, but you're stuck in that land of the film.
Well, so the nerd in me would have to be I want to be like Luke Skywalker and Star Wars, or Aragon and Lord of the Rings. something like that would be sick. Like imagine being Aragon and just being like a badass motherfucker, and you start you're the king of Gondor. Like, no, that'd be pretty wild.
Chill, dude. Chill.
So he wants to be in the 70s, but he also wants to be in like Aragon. Make your mind up, honey. Which one do you want to be?
It'd just be cool.
I would probably say Forrest Gump. I think I said it the other day, but it has best soundtrack ever in any movie. You're living through the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s of the United States. The golden era. Days of Confused.
That's a great call. That is a great call.
Wow. Well done, Zane. Well done. That actually might be mine. That's good. That's a good one. Grease. Yeah. Travolta.
My brother met Travolta once. Angie met Travolta once.
I did.
Is that where your love of the 70s comes from there, Steve? For me, I think I'd have to go with Pineapple Express. Because you would never not have fun if you were in Pineapple Express. It would be hilarious reliving that film. It's never not funny. It's never not funny.
That's a really good one.
For Halloween 5 years ago, one of my best friends and he dressed as Saul and I dressed as Dale. It was awesome.
I love Pineapple Express so much.
He was wasted at the bar, and he goes up to these two girls, and he said one of the lines from the movie, and he just goes up to her and he goes, "Hey, what do you think of euthanasia?"
You know what though? I don't know whether it's because I love James Franco in general.
Oh, he's the king.
Oh God, he's a beautiful man. But that film would be like brilliant forever. You could do that forever.
I think for me, I'd probably go fantasy, and because it was my favorite film when I was growing up as a kid, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I don't
cool.
ride Aslan.
Hang on with Aslan. Yeah.
Maybe
that's all he wants. He just wants to ride Aslan.
So many words.
Walking to a new world, like that'd be pretty cool too. That's why I said Lord of the Rings. Like,
yeah.
You just get hammered off wine. Like you can smoke long bottom leaf and kill orcs. Like,
yeah, we're cool.
Mine's better. You get to smoke a lot, and you just get to put someone's head through drywall. You throw your phone at a tree because you think you're being trapped.
Come back as Jude Law.
Oh my God, that's
all I had. Unless anyone in the chat's got a good fun question, that's all I had. Well, let's anyone else.
Oh, that's so good.
I think that's a good way to end it.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I think it's a good way to end it there. But this was a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys hanging on with us until my technical issues at the beginning. But great episode 1 with our new contributor here, Sophie. It's going to be a lot of fun going forwards here. A lot of laughs, a lot of shushing. It's going to be great.
We need a shush button.
We do need a shush button.
We're going to create a nice shush button for us, and that's going to be good. But everyone in the chat, we really appreciate you guys. This was another fire episode. You guys brought some great questions, great comments. We really appreciate you all. Tell your friends, and if you haven't yet, hit that like and subscribe button. We're on the road to 500. Keep growing every episode. We appreciate it. Helps us bring on some bigger guests and helps more Liverpool fans see the channel. So we super appreciate it. Hit that like and subscribe button. We'll be back Sunday for the pre-match for the Leeds match on Monday. So until then, enjoy your weekend. Stay safe and healthy. And up the Reds, everyone. Take care.
See you guys.
Up the Reds.
Bye.